Hello, welcome to Lights Up Your Life podcast series. I'm here with Jennelle Gordon, and she's a superwoman. Actually, I met her at the Tony Robbins Date with Destiny, and I was actually blown away by what she shared in one of our Facebook group. So I thought the world needs to actually hear what she has to share. Yeah, she was sex traffic survivor, and she's also helping a lot of sex trafficking victims. She has many hands, many faces, and she's running her business, doing volunteer work, and helping a lot of people, raising a child, and doing a degree. So, Jenelle, just tell me about yourself a little bit more.
Well, when you say it like that, thank you so much for having me on your podcast. And I'm so happy to get acquainted with all your viewers and clients and friends. So it's an honor to be here. And I remember when I met you, I just was smitten with your smile and your energy and just how light and bright you were in Date with Destiny. So I'm happy to be here. When you kind of say all those things, it kind of hits me. I'm like, oh my gosh, it really is. I do so many things. And I think that what really keeps me focused and keeps me going is that I try not to think about all those hats because, and you said that, you said she wears many faces, or you said something to that degree. And it's very interesting because that's actually the title of my first book. It's called The Faces of Freedom. And so it is literally what you just said about every face that I have,
Yes.
um, and what I do. And it's more not so much about my story, but it's more about me now, and little bits of my story weaving in, but more about exactly everything I do and all the faces and hats that I wear and how I do it. And so I think that a good story always kind of starts at the ending and goes back, and I think when you look at the progress that I've made now, it's not even been 2 years since I've met Tony Robbins. Um, it's just monumental, and it's almost uh, it's so surreal. It's out of body. For instance, last night I had my first really big event in LA for Beyond Freedom, and it was at a really seating capacity, a theater of about 800 people. And although we didn't have that many people there, it was actually, Beyond Freedom benefit was up on the movie signs. We go see films, they have like, and I had a moment where I was outside, and I'll post the pictures later on Facebook and probably in our group. I just was like, whoa, like this is really happening. This is it. And
Yeah.
I don't know if you've had those moments in your life and in your career and in your life goals where you're doing something that you said you were going to do, and you're like, oh my gosh, this is that moment.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, so that was really surreal for me last night. But what kind of started this whole journey was really chance encounter with Tony Robbins. About in November 2017, I was at a really low point in my life, and I was sleeping, and I was living in a garage with my newborn son, he was 3 months old, and I had barely been free, not even a year, and I had to figure out kind of how to start my life over, and then I
Yeah.
had a baby too.
Yeah.
So it was an extremely challenging time, and there was just something that was in me that knew that I had to give my son more than the childhood that I was given, or that
Yeah.
I experienced rather. Being a product of the system, and being in and out of foster homes and suffering abuse and things that young children should not have to experience at the ages I did, I knew that I wanted so much more for my son.
Yeah.
And so shortly thereafter, I found a way, and I had enrolled in school, and I had taken a public speaking course. And in this course, we were assigned this class, or this assignment to research a persuasive topic that we wanted to give a speech for. And I was immediately drawn towards sex trafficking, and I didn't fully understand why. I just was like, I'm interested in this. And so I started researching and researching local issues of this happening in Orange County and LA, et cetera. And the more I researched, the more I realized this was actually me. These women that I was researching was what had happened to me. And I know that might sound strange, but a lot of women, when they've experienced this, don't know what's really happened to them.
Yeah.
Although now it's becoming more and more prevalent, so more women are aware of it. At
Yeah.
the time, 5 years ago, it wasn't really trending yet. And I always
Yeah.
say human trafficking is trending now. It's kind of
Yeah.
kind of the thing.
Um,
So
can,
go
um,
ahead.
can I ask you,
Yeah.
like you were not even aware that you were sex trafficked? Is that what you're saying? Yeah.
Yes. At the time, I just had thought that, I didn't have a happy life growing up. It kind of, my reality was trauma, and I just thought that was normal.
Yeah.
That was my normalcy, was in and out of foster homes, physical sexual abuse at a young age. And then I was placed in the care of an extremist fundamentalist Christian cult. And we grew up in third world country and extremely poor, is sometimes not even having food of our own. Yet
Yeah.
we were preaching the gospel to other poor people. So my childhood was not, I just thought, oh, this is normal. This is
Yeah.
like, this is normal. So I didn't understand what had happened to me.
Yeah.
And when I was doing that speech, it became clear this was me.
Yeah.
And so the day that I gave my speech, I, at the end, drew it back to myself and said, yeah, this is what I experienced. And something really powerful happened in that moment. I found my voice for the first time in my life.
Okay.
And that was just monumental for me.
Yeah.
And my speech professor really was like, you're going to have a massive impact on a lot of lives with your story and your voice. And I knew in that moment I was never going to be silenced again. And I knew that I was absolutely going to be a voice for women who had had their silence. And so it was very shortly thereafter that I met Tony, and it was a chance encounter of a time when I was in a summer math course. And because I experienced a lot of head trauma and concussions, I developed learning challenges, disabilities that made it extremely difficult for me to process information. And so this math was just killing me, and I was failing. And then my baby, and I just was like, I can't fit back into life. I didn't understand how to be in a world that bought and sold me. It
Yeah.
was like foreign to me. I know that sounds weird, but it's like, how do I fit into this life when I was just, being purchased in this world, but now I have to figure out how to make money in this world.
Yeah.
And so it was a very strange concept. And I just was, at that moment, I wanted to give up. I literally was like, this cannot be life. What I'm doing, I'm failing my son, I'm failing math. I have no support, I have no family. I just was like, I'm done. And so I was scrolling through Instagram, and I saw a post that Tony had put up on Instagram. And it spoke to me, and so I commented on it. And several other thousand people did too. And in the morning, I woke up and checked my inbox, and he had reached out to me and just said, hey, I honor you for your struggle and for your pain, but I want to help you. I want to help you help more women, but first I want to help you. And so he flew me to Unleash the Power Within in Palm Beach. And ever since then, I got to actually meet him in person. And I walked on fire. And after that moment, it was like this defining moment in my life where I realized I literally had the power. And the whole thing, Unleash the Power, but it was literally like, I'm so much more than my whole life. My mantra had been, I can't. The youngest memories I have as a child was, I can't. I didn't have a lot of childhood memories, but I remember that.
Yeah.
And so to go to this workshop where I walked on fire and all these things and all these major shifts happened, I started sleeping through the night for the first time in 10 plus years. And I was able to make it through the day without having a PTSD or anxiety attack, and something I just hadn't experienced. And so my life really altered at that
Yeah.
moment after I
When I
left.
saw you, when I met you, I saw you as a very courageous, very loving, very enthusiastic, and very passionate woman with full of courage. That's how I saw you. Like when I met you, and you also shared, some of the things that happened. So was like I was like thinking, you are really courageous, and wanting to, even though you have gone through all that, rather than you being the victim, you want to actually help other people. You wanted to help other people who are, used for sex trafficking. And even for me, like, I only came to understand, I'm actually working in the social service field. I work as a counselor at the moment, part-time, and I'm also running my own coaching business. But at the same time, even for me, I didn't really understand, even in the first world countries, the sex trafficking is a very big thing. I thought, it's only happening in a third world country, those kind of things. But it's really big in the first world countries as well. And can you shed some light into that as well, please?
And I think this is exactly why I do, I hate calling it work, but why I am called to this mission, because it's number one to, break down misinformation and to really bring awareness to actually what is happening, and understanding that this is a global issue. It does happen in less developed countries, but it absolutely happens in the US and Australia and other places that we consider very affluent and abundant in financial resources.
Yes.
And so, California being one of the top, three, they kind of rotate back and forth, but the top three most trafficked states in the US, in
Wow.
the area I live in, Orange County actually being, one of the top 3 to 5 most trafficked city areas in California, and LA is in there as well. It's really, it rubs people the wrong way, because this area is known as one of the most affluent places in the world. Orange County is. It's like in the top 7th richest areas in the world. So
Wow.
when you think about, yeah, Orange County. So when you think about that, you think about, oh, money, affluence, great opportunity, all these things. And you don't think about sex trafficking. That's not, you're thinking, oh, that's happening in the boroughs and the ghettos and the hood, but
Yeah.
certainly not in Orange County, where, we pay so much money to live here. The weather is 7 degrees all year long. It's a freaking dream, the California dreaming. You don't, but I really come in and mess with people's heads when they have me speak, because I let them know that it's absolutely happening in Orange County, in LA, and it's happening at some of the highest rates in the country, simply from the business standpoint of understanding that this is a business. It is a business. It is not anything other than that. People can call it what it is, a perversion, all these things, but when you really like dissect it, it's a business. And with any business, we understand the base. You did business mastery, obviously. The basic business principles are, wherever there's a massive demand for something, right? A product or service has to be something that people want or need or will use.
That's
And
right.
so, right, if there's a demand for something, you're going to supply that to them, and you're going to give them the best product or goods or service that you can give them, because you're going to get the highest profit margin and provide the most value to your clients. So it's the same thing with sex trafficking. It's literally a business of, there's a demand for these young girls and underage girls for men to have sex with them. And so, because there's a massive demand, $150 billion global industry and growing, there's going to be a supply. And the best products come from the best homes, not from, the less developed countries, or for the impoverished neighborhoods, or from the foster systems. They come from the good middle upper class American families. And so that's what traffickers are doing now. They're targeting those young women because it's a better product.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And you actually wrote a book, and also there's a few other books in the process as well at the moment. Tell us a bit about that.
Okay, so the Faces of Freedom, it's I, couldn't focus on writing and typing, because it's so challenging for me with all the brain stuff that I've had, to rehabilitate, and I'm still rehabilitating. Is extremely hard for me to focus, and being a student, even that's a challenge. It takes me, maybe 2 or 3 weeks to study for a test that might take your average Joe a couple hours. It's so much harder for me to process and retain information. And so with the book, I was like, this is just, I'm never going to get a book written, but I have so much to share. And so I came back from the last Unleash the Power Within, the one that I went to before Date with Destiny. And I just said, I'm writing this book. And I was just determined to do it. And I had a coach that teaches people, mostly survivors, how to speak their book. So she's like, you're way far aligned. You already have the concept. She spent about 2 hours on the phone with me, helping me to outline and bullet point the book. And then I did it in a couple hours. I just spoke the
Wow.
book. And then I had it transcribed through a service. And then now it's the hard part. It's really the editing and the, making sure it's a polished, because I'm a speaker, I'm not a writer.
Yeah.
And so when you speak, it's different than when you write. So that's been the hardest part, is getting it. And I want to put a really amazing product out there that gets my message across. And the message is that it doesn't matter what you've gone through, that you can do anything you want to do. If you believe and you see it and you feel it and you vision it and you do the work, that it literally doesn't matter what you've gone through, that you can create the life that you want. And that's what I'm doing now. So
Yeah.
The Faces of Freedom is my baby. It's like the first book. I think people would expect me to write an autobiography or write about my story, and it's not that actually. There's a little bit weaved in to it about my experiences in Vegas and about some of the struggles that I went through, but it's really not. It's more about me now. I wanted to give people a preview of like what I'm doing and where I am now. And yes, how I got there's in there as well. But that story is going to not even one of the three books I'm working on. So the other books are more about my vision, what I'm doing with my nonprofit Beyond Freedom, um, what I'm doing with my brand, the O Factors, and what I'm doing with Dance Om, which is really helping women to reconnect to their sensuality in a way that's healthy, in a way that's empowering, in the way that's spiritually connected. And so I take them through this journey through their four feminine archetypes based on the first four chakras. And it's a dance journey. And so it's so fun and so cool. And it gets me up and I'm excited because I love teaching this method, this modality to women. So, yeah, really amazing. So, that book really dives into these archetypes and it deals with a lot of things like repressed sexuality, shame around sexuality, how we view relationships today, how it's really detrimental for our society in the way that we're viewing the masculine, the feminine, and how we can change that.
Yeah,
So,
that's beautiful.
yeah.
And what sort of age group you're actually working with at the moment?
I work well, it's interesting because I have worked with clients which is all ages. I've not randomly, but I've worked with a lot of professional athletes. It's kind of interesting in just yoga coaching. And so I work with a lot of professional NFL, NBA, Major League Baseball, as well as soccer players. So I've kind of done that, which was really cool. And it can be all ages. And I work with their wives as well. And then I've also, worked with young girls and college students in the work that I do with dance movement therapy and with obviously the victims of sex trafficking are they're younger, they're 19, they're 20, they're babies, 18 still, very young.
Yeah,
So my work spans really all ages and all both men and women. However, I have a special place in my heart for young women that have experienced sex trafficking or really any kind of sexual trauma.
yeah,
So yeah.
yeah. So you're also helping a lot of sex traffic victims at the moment as
Yeah.
well. You're actually doing some volunteer work as well. So you're trying to help these women who have been used for sex trafficking.
Mhm.
How did you get involved, and how many people you saved so far, and what have you been doing?
Well, how I got involved is I met Tony, as I said, and when I came back from that workshop, I just said, I know that I have to do more, be more, give more, serve more than I've ever done before in my life, and so it became my mission, my obsession to to help victims like me because I didn't get that help. And I thought, this isn't right. I want to change this. And so turned my campus club into a nonprofit, and we're called Beyond Freedom. So we exist to rescue, rehabilitate, and assist victims of sex trafficking to rebuild their lives once they're free. And it's really simple. I mean, I'm not doing anything profound or anything at the moment. I'm not going in and pulling girls out of the sex trade. My work is really more the aftercare.
Okay.
So when a lot of times when young women get pulled out, they might go into a safe house if they're lucky, or you
Yeah.
don't really hear about what happens to them. You see
Yeah.
these big raids in the news about, oh, we rescued 200 girls. Where did these girls go?
Yeah.
What happened to them? Do you ever hear about? No, we don't. It's kind of like, oh, they went off into the abyss somewhere. And so
Yeah.
my work starts. Number one, we work directly with Tony Robbins in the sense that he facilitates um, uh, Unleash the Power Within. He gives us tickets to send victims. We send about 5 victims to every Unleash the Power Within. So that's one thing the nonprofit does. So with that, we facilitate, the airfare, hotels, the food, spending the money, and all that to make sure they're there and comfortable. So that's one thing we do, because Beyond Freedom takes a holistic approach to rehabilitation and reintegration.
Yeah.
So, partnering with holistic healers all over the world that have offered their services and that are giving their services to our young women, as well as the work that we're doing with Tony himself.
Mm.
So, that's a massive part. And how I meet girls is very, uh, how do I say this? It's very natural. Every time I speak somewhere, another young woman comes forward. If I'm
Okay.
speaking at a college campus, every time I speak, a woman comes forward, either that she's been trafficked or she knows of someone that has.
Yeah.
Or they find me on social media, or I get referred from another survivor, things like that. So
Mm.
I haven't sought out anyone because I haven't had to.
Yeah.
There's so many young women that need our services.
Yeah, I think it's that healing process is very important. Like, are you offering that for all these young women and also helping them to go through that healing? Because they can go through, like what you were saying, they can go through the sex trafficking. They may not be even aware that they were experiencing that. That's normal, like for a lot of trauma survivors, people who are depressed. They don't really know that they are depressed when they are depressed. The same, based on what you're saying, it looks like it's pretty similar with a lot of sex traffickers as well. That they don't really know that they have been sex trafficked, or they think that it's normal way of living, and then when they come out of it, that's when they actually feel the shame or experience that trauma or all these. They need. That's the time that they need all this healing. That's what you're doing. It's just even though you said that I'm not doing much. I think it looks like you're doing heaps. You're doing a lot.
Well, thank you. I just thought, the approach, we have to shift the way that we're dealing with this, because and I'm not talking bad about any nonprofits. I'm so grateful that there's massive ones out there with massive budgets that are, helping women and doing really the best they can to get them into jobs and things like that. However, I feel like we have to reevaluate the approach that we've been taking on serving these young women, because we've taken a very natural, or not natural, but like status quo approach to, talk therapy, medication, prescription medication, remedial job training, to get young women that have literally been a part of our, they've been a commodity, and now we place them into a job that nobody really wants to do. But we're
Yeah,
like, we have to get these women working. Let's just get them in some BS job so we can say that we're helping them. And I'm saying that with all the respect in the world for the nonprofits that do so much for these women. I know that they have massive hearts and that they do help these women, obviously. But what I'm saying is that our approach is a little different, when I really feel that the healing starts when we look at the woman as a holistic being. So it's everything from the food she's eating to how she's viewing her sensuality, and how her mind and emotions are being healed and her spirit's being healed, and doing every kind of healing modality you could think of, from network spinal analysis to craniosacral work to to acupuncture to do. There's so many different healers out there that we use,
Yeah.
and it's all about what that survivor needs, and understanding that it's going to be a different healing process for every young woman, because every young women's sex trafficking story is different. It was different. And but Tony's work is the beginning step, because we get them to just to take back their power, to realize that they really can do anything, and to get that little bit of confidence. And once they have that, it's like it just a light, goes off, and you see them light up, and you see them feel good about themselves and want to pursue their dreams. And Beyond Freedom wants to make these dreams happen for these young women. Like, what is it you want to do? Like, we don't want you to work at Starbucks or at some, job where you're making bracelets and this is helping you. Like, for me,
Yeah.
that's what do you want to do? And let's partner within the community to make these dreams possible for these young women.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I see
So
so much passion when you're talking about all the, about this, and I see your face lights up, and you seem to be really passionate about it. And so, tell me about your business. Like, you are also running business as well, and how many businesses you are running, and what? Yeah, I know you're running so many different things as well at the moment. So, tell me about
well, thank you. Yes, I am. My brand is Jennelle Gordon. That's, obviously the brand is me. And under that, I am speaking and obviously writing now. That's my new thing. But my real passion is really, as I mentioned, is working with people and their sensuality, and really connecting those dots of being, take, the shame and all that, and getting that out of the picture, and allowing the connection to come back, so that they can be healed, that they can be empowered, and they can be essentially spiritually connected. And so I do that work through, I call myself a creation evolution specialist. So I really help men and women both to tap in, tune into their sensuality, and realize that that's their power. It's their power for everything in life, from their finances to creating the life, the dream, everything they have, their connection to the divine, to God, whatever they subscribe to, as far as a higher power source. And so I do that through a myriad of different ways. Basically, I have training as in tantric lineage. So I'm a tantra yoga practitioner, and so I come from a very long lineage of tantra, of like a white tantra. So our school goes back thousands and thousands of years. So that's very important and dear to me, because I take this practice extremely serious. However, I understand that not everyone is going to live that practice like I do. So I wanted to make Tantra accessible to the everyday person like yourself, who is, a businessman and who is running a business and doing all these things. But certain aspects of Tantra seem intriguing, but to go through all the fluff and everything, like I lived on an island for a year and studied this and lived under my teachers and studied under them and taught under them, most people are not going to do that. And so I thought, what if I could take tantric principles and weave them into our everyday lives, so that people could use this work and make it something that they could actually live and benefit from, and so add that kind of value to their life. So I created a system called the O Factors, which is a 7-step process to living what I call an outstanding orgasmic life. And so in the O's, each O is something that I teach. As I mentioned, I'm trained in Tantra Hatha Yoga, meditation, Reiki, holistic nutrition, dance movement therapy, and I'm now actually studying NLP too. But uh, sorry about that. So to answer your question, that is what I'm working on right now, and really growing and scaling that business. And I'm working on a 6-week online boot camp, which we'll be launching in the next 3 weeks, as well as an international tantric creation that I'm curating. And it's going to be something so like that's never been done before, that's accessible, that's fresh, that's millennial, cutting edge, something that people can feel excited about doing without the dogma of all the tantra and all the weird stuff. That's just the principles that are simplified, kind of like what Tony does. He takes this really like, whoa, crazy information and just breaks it down.
Yeah.
that's what I'm doing with Tantra. And
Yeah.
so that will be launching as well. And I'm really going to launch online because I want to be able to reach more people.
Yeah.
Obviously, as you said, I have a baby that
Yes.
I'm raising alone,
Yes.
and that's a lot of work.
Yes.
And so for me, it's my goal, and what we're doing is we're creating these online programs that are kind of hybrid, so you can do most of it online, and then the goal is to get them to come to a destination retreat. So I'm doing a couple this year. I'm doing one in Spain. I'll be doing one in Cabo, as well as planning one in the Bahamas for around Christmas time.
Yes.
So just really fun stuff, exotic places, taking people out of their comfort zones and helping them to really like shed the layers of, you know, gross stuff around sensuality and really like find themselves in that. Because
Yes.
when you find yourself in your power, in your sensual power, you become a better person. It's not just about sex and your sexual intimate partners. No, it's about becoming a holistic person, becoming a fully empowered holistic person.
Yes.
And you do the gateway to life is through your sexual power and sexual energy. And
Yes.
that is something that people are like a little afraid of, but I break it down so it's not scary, but it's something enticing and something that they see the value that it can bring to their life. And so I get excited about that.
Yeah, good. And what are the challenges that you face in terms of when you're working with people, um, in terms of sexuality and all that? What are the challenges that you face? Like, I know people come with different beliefs, and some people are really stubborn about sexuality and what they believe and all that. And I know from my own experience, like I some time ago I wanted to become a monk, and then I stayed in India, went back and forth, and all that. Not many people knew much about it, but that was my intention. But when I went into that spirituality, I actually experienced that orgasm through spirituality. Like even taking a particular types of breath gives you orgasm in every part of your cells. Every cells get into that. But people, it's very difficult to express that verbally unless people experience that for themselves. They're not going to understand that. So, can you shed some light into these dogmas and also people's limiting beliefs about sexuality?
That's a great question, and I can tell you're a great coach because you know the good questions to ask. Um, this is this has become my Achilles because it both in my professional and my personal life, just to be quite honest. And I'm very frank. I'm very an open book. There's nothing that I won't share because I don't subscribe to shame, and I believe whatever you keep in private will come out into the light, and it'll come out mostly in a negative way. So I'm very open, and I think um, we'll start professional first, and then I'll tell you personal as well. So professionally speaking, it's extremely challenging because a lot of people, especially in the US, I'm not sure if it's the same in Australia. Are you guys Christian or is it more Catholic or what is the
Um,
faith
yeah,
there?
mostly Christians, I
Yeah.
believe.
Like it's kind of like the US, right? I'm pretty sure.
Yeah,
Yeah. You guys are a little more open-minded than us, I will say though. But so we have all that religious dogma of sex is shameful. It's sending you to hell if you're doing it out of wedlock. And even some of the more extremist fundamentalists are, you're doing this to procreate and there should be no pleasure in it. This and it's insane. I mean, we grew up and we weren't even allowed to say that word. We were not. I wasn't even allowed to associate with. I couldn't even talk to guys that were in the faith. To guys that were in the faith that we went to the same, brainwashing church services together. Like that was like, and I remember feeling shame. Like if like my brother's friends would look at me or want to talk to me, just engage about church stuff, I was like, I'm gonna get in trouble. Like that is, I cannot say how disempowering and how detrimental that is. I mean, just look at what happened to me. And I'm not placing the blame on the family and my family that raised me. I still love them, but it's a massive part of why I believe I ended up in that life. Because I honestly believe, and it's energetic principles, you know this, that whatever you resist will persist, and whatever you cannot be with will not let you be. And so I ended up in the antithesis of that life that was I was told to stay away from and to refrain from. So I find that that's the biggest thing is the Christian and the religious dogmas, especially with there's a lot of cultures out here other than just Americans. We kind of have a melting pot in California where I live. Um, the Muslim faith, the Hindu, a lot of that, and then also the societal like norms, like you don't do this or you can't, like, you know, you need to talk to your children and they're tell them their make up names for their private parts, and wash your hands, and like all this like obsession around sex, like, and it's like, and I remember my tantra teacher saying this in one of our trainings, and he said, why do we tell our kids to wash their hands after they pee? Like, like it's almost like, and I get it, the hygiene, the people are like the hygiene and all that, but at the same time it's like, it's like a subconscious thing of like when you touch your penis it's dirty. Do you get what I'm saying? But
That's
most
right.
people go
Yeah.
straight to hygiene and they're like, oh yeah, of course you wash your hand. It's like, no. And so even things like that, they're so underlying and they're so like it's become a part of our culture and how we raise our children. It's so messed up. And I do not raise my son like that. I'm very much so, he's very free and very liberated. But so that's those two are probably the main things: the cultural, the cultural, the religious, and the societal norms around sexuality, and how there's certain things you do and certain things you don't do, and you don't talk about things, and it's it's very sad to work with that, because it's like I have to kind of help them undo all that so that I can
Mm.
build them back up into what
Yeah.
is a safe and empowering way. But something else that's really I've noticed is that there's this social hierarchy of um, how women are less than men and how men are able to engage with a lot of sexual partners and it's okay. But
Yeah.
if women are enjoying sex or talk about their sex, that they have become, they've been labeled like a slut or this or that. And so a lot of women don't own their sexual power because they feel that it is going to put them in a box as, you know, as something, an undesired name.
That's
And
right.
so you know what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
they never tap into that. And, just dealing with even sex alone, men orgasm in 5 to 7 minutes time, where takes women, and that's just the stats, unfortunately. And women, it takes them up to, or I'm sorry, it's 7 to 10 minutes. And women, it takes 30 to 40 minutes. So you have this massive gap in in that sexual encounter
Yeah.
where women are not being served, and therefore they are trying to hurry and have superficial orgasms so they can get some kind of pleasure, because they know that the man's going to orgasm first and then that's going to be the end of it. So
Yes.
you even see it in the bedroom, and it's so, I mean, we could go on forever and talk about
Yes,
this.
yes. Even like it's such a shame because even in our culture, I was brought up in a Hindu family. So even in our culture, so I was born in Sri Lanka and I've been living in Australia for more than 23 years now. In Australia, so even in our culture, even though the tantra and the sexual, Kama Sutra and all that came from
uh,
India or from
yeah,
our culture, people don't really like to talk about it nowadays. But the previous generations, if you actually go into the Hindu temple, there's a tower at the entrance of the Hindu temples. Usually, they will have these Kama Sutra sexual poses and things like that, different postures. Yeah, it's actually it's all sexual. But a lot of people nowadays, because of the Western education or the
education.
different mentalities, they question that and they don't want to talk about those things. Where it is a natural process and it is a natural thing that happens to us. Even the feeling and even the sexuality is a natural thing. But a lot of people have shame associated to that and the guilt associated to that. Yes.
Yeah, and that's interesting that you brought that up because that was a massive part of our training is, understanding that India wasn't always repressed, and then it did become. But I mean, that's how Tantra began, from the temples, from the walls, and from the things that what is I'm talking about, the things that are inscribed on the outside of the temples and the statues and the Shiva
Yes,
lingas and all those things. And that's how we gathered a lot of from what we know of Tantra, as well as just spoken down from lineage to lineage. And then the Kama Sutra as well, that was actually something that people don't realize was literally just, it was like a gift on people's wedding nights. And it was like a whole rule book for marriage. It wasn't just the sexuality aspect, but the sexuality is what has been sold, like, oh yeah, that's what it is. And people don't understand that the 64 classical arts that are in the Kama Sutra is about keeping your relationship alive and keeping love alive through reinventing yourself. And you guys really had it down genius, like in such a genius way, but it got twisted and then it got repressed and it got shamed. And so it's very sad to see that. So yeah. I also think, really quickly touching on what we said, what makes it challenging to do this work is that people have it twisted. They either A, think it's a big orgy when you're having workshops, and
yes,
they're like, oh, are we taking our clothes off, or do we have to have a sexual partner? And I'm just like, oh my God, like, where do I even begin with this? And even this, I have a workshop coming up in less than 2 weeks with a friend of mine who teaches, we teach together. And so we have the masculine and feminine, and it's a nice balance. However, we're so careful how we market it,
yeah,
because I mean, I come from a Tantra lineage that we teach white Tantra. So it's all about spiritual evolution. It's not red Tantra, which is all about pleasure, pleasure, pleasure. Our thing is our pleasure is our connection with God, and that's
yes,
it. But yeah, people are like, oh, we're going to be having sex, or here's the thing that happens with me when I put this work out there and trying to get clients, because it's really kind of hard to get Tantra clients, because people think that A, you're going to be sleeping with, or B, there's going to be some kind of sexual activity that's happening. And I'm like, it's a holistic system of spirituality, spirituality, spirituality. Yes, your sensuality is a part of it, but it's like 5% of the whole path.
that's
And
right.
so it's very, it's
Yeah.
very challenging.
In India and in the spiritual side of it, when you say tantra, it's not about sex. It's actually certain techniques to actually take you beyond your physicality. It takes you to your higher self or God or the universe or whatever you call it. It
Right.
is about that, but a lot of people get caught up in that idea. It's about sex. It's not.
It's not. It's the
Yeah.
smallest. It's like 95% of the practice is hatha yoga, meditation, yantras, mantras, purity of diet, all these other things, laya yoga, sound yoga. I could go on
Yeah.
and on about the whole. It's a massive practice, and
Yes.
it's like 5% is the physical sexual practice, 5%. But that's what people fixate on, because we that's where we reside in our energy level in the second chakra. We're down there. So it makes it extremely challenging to work with men. Although men are obviously very gravitated to me. They're like, oh, this is a hot teacher and she's going to probably have sex with me. Cool. And I'm like, oh my God. So I weed a lot of people out. I charge a lot so that people, you know, know that. And I have to write in all my things, there's no sexual activity of any kind. Do not ask, or I will not work with you.
Yes.
um, and it makes it extremely challenging, as well as in the personal life, when I'm talking to guys that might be interested in dating me, or that might be interested in dating. It's extremely challenging for that as well, because they see me as, oh, she's this, and I'm very public about what I do on my social media, because I am trying to create a business.
Yeah.
So I put on there, Tantra, this, as orgasmic creation, all the things I'm doing. And
Yeah.
then guys are like, then I'm like, are they liking me for me, or is it just because they want me to be their personal
Yeah.
Tantra coach?
They
So
might look at, yeah, they might look at you as a sex guru or something.
that's what it is. And it's extremely challenging, but it's okay, because right now, I'm so focused on building the business and the nonprofit, that the other will come when it's supposed to, and it'll be someone that can see past all that. probably someone in the Tony world, I'm sure.
Yes,
As
yes.
much time as I spend at those workshops.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So tell us about your nonprofit.
So Beyond Freedom is like my second or third son, because my son and then my business, and yeah, it's just my third baby, my third child. It's it's my work of labor, and I'm still laboring right now. I've been in labor for a long time. I'm ready for the labor to be over. It is a lot of work, and I've come up with a lot of people that do not support me, from larger nonprofits that I would have thought would support me. But the outpouring of people, influential people that do support me, like Tony Robbins and things like that, makes up for that.
Yeah.
So it's all about positioning and building right now, and even branding of that, and getting the right team of people together so that we can really be more effective in serving these women. And my ultimate goal, within the next year, is Beyond Freedom 360. And that's one of my books. So it's a holistic rehabilitation and integration center for victims of sex trafficking. So just like people go to rehab for drugs and alcohol, and they might stay there for quite some time, it's the same type of concept. And so raising the capital for that, it's going to be a lot of work. So it's everything from having organic food, organic garden, to having every kind of holistic remedy and healing therapy available to these young women, and also programs that really teach them how to just live life, how, from things like how to open up a bank account, to, I mean, basics. You don't think that, but it's like you're literally like rebuilding a person.
That's right.
So yeah, so all the basics, but all really, really holistic based: dance movement therapy, music meditation, working with network spinal analysis, working with um, the method Tony used, the Ladonis method, that coaching that he sends a lot of his people to. We have one of those coaches who works with our. So we basically, any type of healing therapy you can think of, we have healers that are on call and ready to do this work. So yeah, so it's exciting. So to actually build the facility is my goal, to have one here in Orange County, and
Yeah.
then eventually to spread out and do them. I want to do one in Vegas, obviously my heart, because that's where I was trafficked mostly, and then make it international. So just a different approach to healing and reintegration, rehabilitation, treating it like drugs or alcohol. It's the same thing. It's a whole rehab and a whole building up of this person again.
Yeah. Must be really, really good that good support that you have. Tony actually supporting you with this as well.
Yeah, I mean, and they're wanting to do more. The foundation is wanting to do more. So I'm just beginning, starting to connect with them and work with them, and eventually they'll be donating financially as well. So I'll be very happy when that happens. So I've just been building rapport, building relationships, and now they have expressed interest in financially backing me. So just starting that process of working with them in that way as well. Um, yeah,
That's big actually. I'm
it's
actually so excited for you and what you're gonna do and what you got. How many people gonna help? Actually, I'm actually excited for you.
yes. Yeah, me too. So,
And
yay.
I'm also looking forward to your TED talk as well.
Yes, my coach is here, and we're going to be busy, busy, busy tomorrow, formatting and outlining and changing a lot of things and doing it over again. It's a
Good.
whole different ball game. But she's a pro. She's done, like, I think around 30 or 40 of them. She's done 30.
How can people get in touch with you or get to know more about what you do or help
Yeah.
you
So
with
I
your
think
projects?
the best way is they can go directly to my website, which is just my name, JennelleGordon.com. And I imagine you'll do the spelling and everything in the link.
Yes.
They can also find me on Instagram, Jennelle_Gordon, and Facebook is Jennelle Gordon. It's pretty easy. From my landing site, Jennelle Gordon, it'll take them to Beyond Freedom site as well as the O Factors. So from there, they'll be directed, and they can see everything I do, in my modality, as well as the nonprofit work. So yeah.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful. And thank you for your time, and thank you for sharing your love and energy, and also sharing with us what you're doing, and keep living with passion.
The only way to live: passion, purpose, and a lot of prosperity.
Yes. Thank you.
Thank you for having me, Haran.